For 11 years, everyone had told billionaire heiress Corinne Ashford that her daughter would probably never speak. But that afternoon, in the middle of a crowded children's charity center, something happened that made Corinne drop the folder in her hands and forget how to breathe. Her daughter, Ilara, who had not spoken a single word since a traumatic event as a toddler, slowly walked toward a complete stranger, looked directly into his eyes, and whispered the smallest word anyone in the room had ever heard from her. She said, "Hi." The stranger was a tired single father wearing a plain maintenance uniform, and he immediately knelt instead of celebrating, as though he understood that this tiny moment belonged entirely to the child. Corinne had no idea that the quiet man was a former Navy SEAL whose own life had been shattered by loss, and that the reason he knew exactly what Ilara needed was connected to wounds he had spent years hiding. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances can change a life, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so our family can continue bringing you emotional stories about people who discover strength where they least expect it. Corinne Ashford had built a billion-dollar empire from a small software company she had started in her 20s. She became known for her sharp decisions, disciplined personality, and ability to remain calm when everyone around her panicked. Business magazines called her fearless. Investors called her brilliant. Employees called her demanding. But inside her private life, Corinne carried a wound that no financial success could repair. Her daughter Ilara had stopped speaking when she was 3 years old. The change had happened after a frightening family incident that Corinne rarely discussed. Ilara had witnessed her father's medical emergency, and although doctors eventually stabilized him, the experience had left the little girl deeply traumatized. She stopped speaking almost immediately. Specialists diagnosed severe anxiety and trauma-related mutism. Corinne spent years taking her to therapists, speech specialists, private schools, and child psychologists. She spent enormous amounts of money trying to give Ilara every possible opportunity. But Ilara remained silent. She communicated through drawings, gestures, writing, and expressions. She understood everything people said, but she rarely made sounds beyond occasional hums or quiet breaths. Corinne slowly began treating silence as something that needed to be protected. She surrounded Ilara with security guards and assistants. She chose quiet schools. She avoided crowded public places. She even redesigned parts of their home to reduce noise and unexpected disturbances. Every time someone asked whether Ilara could speak, Corinne felt as though they were asking whether her daughter was broken. So she stopped allowing people to ask. Ilara grew into a gentle 11-year-old who loved animals, puzzles, and drawing. She was observant and unusually sensitive to the emotions of other people. She could tell when someone was angry even if they smiled. She could tell when someone was sad even if they said they were fine. But she could not say what she felt. That changed when she met Rowan Mercer. Rowan was 38 years old, a single father raising his 8-year-old son, Callan. He worked at the charity center where Corinne's foundation sponsored programs for children with disabilities and emotional challenges. His official job was facilities maintenance, but he did far more than repair doors and move equipment. He often helped children who became overwhelmed, assisted parents carrying bags, and quietly stayed near children who were afraid. Nobody at the center knew much about his past. Rowan had been a Navy SEAL. He had served for years and participated in dangerous operations that required discipline, patience, and emotional control. His military career had ended after a mission in which several members of his unit were killed. Rowan returned home carrying grief that he could not explain to people who had never experienced it. He eventually became a single father. Callan's mother had left when he was very young, and Rowan had decided that his son would never wonder whether someone was coming back for him. He worked whatever job allowed him to be present. He lived modestly. He owned very little. But Callan always knew his father would show up. Rowan understood frightened children. He understood silence too. He had learned during his military service that silence did not always mean weakness. Sometimes silence meant someone was observing, processing, surviving. That was why he never pressured Alara. The first time he met her, she was sitting alone near a fountain outside the charity center. Several children were playing nearby, but Alara remained apart from them, drawing a small bird in her notebook. Rowan was repairing a loose railing nearby. He noticed the drawing. He did not approach her immediately. Instead, he finished his work and sat on a bench several feet away. He began drawing a simple bird on a scrap piece of paper. It was terrible. Alara looked at it. For the first time, she smiled at him. Rowan smiled back. He did not ask her to speak. He did not ask why she was quiet. He simply let the moment exist. Over the following weeks, Alara began sitting near him whenever she visited the center. Rowan discovered that she liked puzzles. He started leaving small logic games on a table for her. Sometimes she solved them quickly. Sometimes she became frustrated. Rowan never told her the answer. He waited. That patience mattered. Corinne noticed that Alara had begun looking forward to visits to the center, but she did not know why. She assumed it was the art program. Then one afternoon, Corinne saw Alara sitting beside Rowan and Callan. Callan was showing Alara how to build a small wooden model airplane. Rowan was helping them fit the pieces together. Alara laughed silently. Corinne had almost forgotten what that expression looked like. She stood watching from a distance. Then something unexpected happened. Callan dropped a piece. Alara picked it up and handed it to him. Callan smiled. Alara smiled back. Corinne felt something shift inside her. Her daughter was connecting with people. She was not afraid. But Corinne still did not understand Rowan. She ordered her security team to investigate him. The report revealed his military background. Corinne was stunned. A man she had assumed was an ordinary maintenance worker had served as a Navy SEAL. She became suspicious. Why would someone with that background work at a children's charity center? Was he hiding something? Her questions became more urgent when Alara began waiting near the entrance for Rowan. Corinne worried that her daughter was becoming too attached to a stranger. Then came the afternoon that changed everything. The charity center was hosting a family event. There were balloons, music, food, and dozens of children. Corinne was standing near the entrance when Alara suddenly froze. A balloon burst. The sharp sound triggered the same fear that had haunted her since childhood. Alara covered her ears. Her breathing became rapid. Corinne rushed toward her. But before she reached her daughter, Rowan was already there. He did not grab Alara. He knelt several feet away and calmly created space around her. He lowered the noise nearby and signaled for the music to be reduced. He reminded her through simple gestures to focus on what she could see. Alara slowly looked at him. Then something extraordinary happened. She spoke. It was barely more than a breath. But it was a word. Hi. Corinne froze. The entire room seemed to disappear. Alara had not spoken in 8 years. Rowan did not react dramatically. He simply smiled. He treated the word like something precious that should not be frightened away by attention. Corinne's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to run to her daughter, but she stopped herself. She realized that this moment belonged to Alara. For the first time in years, Corinne understood that her daughter did not need everyone to celebrate her. She needed everyone to remain calm enough to let her continue. Later, Corinne asked Rowan how he had known what to do. He explained that military training had taught him how to remain calm during chaos. But his real understanding came from being a father. Callan had experienced anxiety after his mother left, and Rowan had learned that children often needed someone who could sit beside them without demanding anything. Corinne asked why he had never told anyone about his SEAL past. Rowan explained that he did not want people treating him differently. His service was part of his history, but it was not his identity. Then he revealed something even more painful. During his final deployment, Rowan had been unable to save one of his closest friends. He had carried guilt for years. He believed that if he had been faster, smarter, or stronger, perhaps his friend would have survived. Eventually, a counselor helped him understand that surviving did not mean failing. That lesson had changed his life. He wanted Alara to learn the same thing. She did not need to be perfect. She did not need to speak on anyone else's schedule. She simply needed to know that she was safe. Corinne began crying. She finally understood that she had spent years trying to force her daughter's world to become perfectly safe because she was terrified of losing her. She had protected Alara from so much that she had accidentally protected her from growth. Corinne apologized to her daughter. She admitted that she had been afraid. She admitted that sometimes she treated Alara's silence like a problem because she did not know how to accept something she could not fix. Alara listened. Then she reached for her mother's hand. It was the first time she had initiated that kind of gesture in months. Corinne held it carefully. From that day forward, everything changed slowly. Corinne stopped trying to make Alara speak. Instead, she began giving her reasons to want to communicate. She allowed Alara to order her own food. She encouraged her to answer questions through writing when she was not ready to speak. She let her choose activities without interference. Alara began speaking more frequently. First a word. Then another. Then short sentences. There were setbacks. Some days she returned to silence. Corinne no longer panicked. She had learned that progress was not always a straight line. Rowan remained part of their lives. Corinne eventually offered him a position overseeing safety and family programs at her foundation. Rowan accepted only after ensuring the position would allow him to continue spending time with Callan. His experience as a SEAL helped improve emergency procedures, but his greatest contribution was emotional. He taught staff how to recognize fear before it became a crisis. Callan became close friends with Alara. They built model airplanes together, drew pictures, and played board games. One afternoon, Alara drew a picture of 3 people standing beneath a large tree. There was a mother. There was a girl. And there was a man wearing a simple jacket. Above them was a speech bubble. Inside it was a single word. Together. Corinne stared at the drawing for a long time. Then she hugged her daughter. Alara whispered something against her shoulder. It was not perfect. It was not loud. But Corinne understood every word. She was happy. Years later, Alara became an advocate for children with anxiety and communication difficulties. She often told other children that silence was not something to be ashamed of. She explained that sometimes your voice returns slowly, and that needing time does not make you weak. Rowan continued working with veterans and families. His SEAL past remained part of his story, but it no longer defined him. He was a father. A mentor. A friend. And the man who had been patient enough to let a silent child speak when she was ready. Corinne's life changed too. She remained a billionaire. She remained successful. But she stopped measuring life by control. She learned to listen. She learned to wait. She learned that protecting someone did not mean removing every challenge. Sometimes it meant standing beside them while they faced it. Before we reach the final moment, leave a meaningful comment and tell us what lesson touched you most. Was it Rowan's patience, Alara's courage, or Corinne's realization that love sometimes means letting go of control? Your comment might give hope to someone who is waiting for their own breakthrough. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Because the billionaire had once believed her daughter needed someone to make the world quiet. She was wrong. Alara needed someone who could remain calm when the world became loud. She needed someone who would not judge her silence. She needed someone who would wait. And Rowan had waited. He had survived battlefields, loss, guilt, and years of emotional pain, but the greatest lesson of his life came from a little girl who could barely speak. Her first word to him was only, "Hi." But to Corinne, it sounded like a door opening. A door she had spent 8 years desperately trying to unlock. And when Alara finally walked through it, her mother discovered that sometimes healing does not arrive with money, medicine, or miracles. Sometimes it arrives quietly. Sometimes it sits beside you. Sometimes it simply waits until you are ready. And sometimes the person who helps you find your voice is the one person who never asks you to speak.